Hey, welcome everybody. Welcome to another Thursday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm Dan,
And I'm Drew.
and we would like to welcome you to Paranormal Notebook. Exciting news. Drew, you asked me earlier today about guests, and Michelle Freed is working on that for us. And she's off doing a thing this weekend, but I did send her dates, like every Thursday night. So there's one or two that I didn't have us doing a show, like holiday and some other stuff that's coming up.
Mhm.
And I'll send those dates to you. But we'll have some guests coming our way. But I figured tonight we would redo something I started and I didn't really record it after I spent all that time doing it. And we'll do part one tonight called you want to be a paranormal investigator, and we'll give some insight about you know um, things that you should know and do if you want to become this and do what it is we do. And I wanted to start off by talking about our sponsor, as always, which is Henderson Castle, hendersoncastle.com. It's an 1895 bed and breakfast right here in downtown Kalamazoo. And you can go there to book your next stay. Beautiful 1895 castle. I know that Drew's been there, and we have once a month haunted dinners, and they do murder mysteries. They host weddings. If you want your wedding there you go. Go to hendersoncastle.com. And so we thank them and Francois Moyer, the owner of the hotel. Well, not hotel, but bed and breakfast, as well as Gun Barrel Coffee. It's a damn good coffee. You've had the rest. Now try the best. Go to gunbarrelcoffee.com. They're out of Batavia, Illinois. Use this code, okay? Use CBC or GBC10. GBC10. You'll get 10% off your first order, or Big Dog 12, and you'll get a discount on your order there too. And so let's jump right into the show. I wanted to ask my co host. I've asked him this before in the past, but I figured it's a good place to start before we jump into the other part. What what exactly got you into the paranormal? What drove you to do what it is you're doing now?
Oh, what a long sordid story. Um, Back in the summer of 1982, my family moved to an old farmhouse out in the country. Now, this farmhouse originally started off as a one-room cabin
Mm-hmm.
back in the 1870s, and um, sometime along the 1890s they had modernized. They didn't actually tear down the cabin. The cabin still existed inside the walls of what would have been our living room, and they completely um, updated everything, put up plaster and lath, put old aluminum siding on the outside of it and stuff. But as they wrapped living room, they built my mom and dad's room, and then within the next 20 years, they added the dining room and the small room in the back, which was originally used for storing wood.
Right.
It was only about 5 feet across and maybe 10 feet long, and had a door going out back where they used to chop wood, bring it right up into the back porch there. They'd store the wood. And in the next decade, they added the kitchen and utility room. And then just a few years later, added um, my mom and dad's bedroom and the upstairs 3 rooms. So this place was completely finished by like 1955. Um, Now it never had barns and stuff. It had outhouses, outbuildings, a
Right.
great big block garage, and then it had a well house outside where they used to have the pump actually in the middle of the building, and then as it modernized, they actually put a sump pump in and a water softener and stuff down in the basically the tornado shelter underneath the well house. Um, but we moved into the place. It hadn't been lived in about 20 years, and we went out there, started working on the place, getting it all remodeled and fixed up for a family to live in it. As you can imagine, out in the middle of the country, had all kinds of critters in and out of it for decades. Um, but we completely remodeled the place. The very first night we stayed there, my sister and I, which my room was right above the living room, my sister's room was above the utility room, and then there was a staircase between us. And we heard noises. We heard whispers. We heard giggling. We heard all kinds of things. And this went on for probably 2 or 3 months. And I finally approached my bus driver, whose mom and dad had previously owned the property. And we got the history on it. And she informed us that in the 1880s, the man that lived in it had died downstairs during the winter in the living room, basically almost directly underneath where my head was at in my bed. But his family approached him in the fall and said, hey, why don't you come to town with us and we'll bring you back home in the spring. And he said no. And sometime during the winter, he froze to death. And his dog actually passed right there on his lap, probably within just a few days of him going. And then in the 1940s, a little girl who supposedly, from what I understand in the story, was cheated on. She was like 16, 17 years old. So, on her way to being an old maid. She hung herself. Yeah. Well, she hung herself in the garage, which was the outbuilding furthest from the house. And then in the 1960s, a young girl hung herself on the staircase banister in the upstairs. So we were dealing with 3 spirits in the house.
Yeah, every couple of decades, there's some sort of tragedy.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, luckily there was none with my family. My family lived there for 19 years, and my bus drivers.
At least until you came along.
Well, yeah, I was kind of, but I was more of an F and Greek tragedy.
Right. Go ahead. I didn't
but
interrupt.
That really got me interested, and then let's do the math. What really spectacular movie that had to do with ghosts came out the next year? That I think we're celebrating 40 years in June this year.
Really?
And that was the very first movie that I ever went to the theater to see.
And what do you think of what do you think of that movie?
What do I think of it?
We're thinking of the same movie?
We're thinking of Ghostbusters.
Okay. I thought for some reason I thought you were in the neighborhood of like Amityville Horror or something. But
no, 1984, June 1984.
The lighter side, it would be Ghostbusters, yeah.
Yeah, but seeing the interaction, seeing the communicating with the ghosts, the trapping of the ghosts, that really lit a fire underneath me to become more interested in the paranormal. And it just kind of it grew in me quite a bit. And then back in 2016, I actually died. I died twice in about a 20-minute period. And then I was put in a medically induced coma. And when I came out of the coma after a week and a half, I noticed that I was more in tune with feeling things. It's like I could feel things around me before, but now I could really feel things. And it's like, wow, what do you know? So 5 years ago, I picked up the mantle and started doing paranormal investigating.
Yeah. I came across you um, just going through some history stuff and saw, Living History's Mysteries. And then I saw that you were in Cassopolis, and I'm like, hey, this guy's in my backyard. I'm interested in what he's talking about, what he's producing. I saw you geared up in your clothes, and you'd have different stuff on from woodsman all the way up to, you know, almost like a cavalry officer. I mean,
Oh yeah.
you had an array of things going on. Then I saw that you were doing some paranormal, but and I've told the story on mine. I'm not going to bore everybody to death with my story again. It happened when I was little, all throughout being a young man, more pronounced in my adult years, and my sensitivity obviously more, pronounced as we went on. But I was interested to have you share, your story. And I met you guys in Galen. I came out with you.
Yep.
You said, come on down. We went to Galen, Michigan. Galen. I say Galen. You say Galen.
Glean.
Galen.
Yeah.
And did a jail there. And I was amazed, just tagging along, caught a photo. I didn't expect that. I thought I'm just going to watch you guys operate and be chill. And I'm still cool with that, going out with anybody and just kind of watching you guys operate and adding in when I can here and there. And I liked what I saw. You guys, did some cool work, and you did some things that, we are grandfathered in, so to speak, from Great Britain. They had a psychical research society for many eons, many decades and eons. And in fact, some of the ways we conduct paranormal investigating is still based on that model. It's not really changed, other than having to finite and tune some things that you do. And that's what I wanted to cover, on our short show tonight. I wanted to cover some of that. And I would say to anybody who watches this, watching it live or catches it in rerun, that so you want to be a paranormal investigator, a ghost hunter, ghost chaser, whatever it is you want to call. I'm not gonna distinguish and break that down anymore. I don't think we really need to. There was a time where I do this with my nose. Where a few of the people in the field, including me, got caught up in titles. It's like, well, I'm not a ghost chaser. I'm a paranormal investigator, or I'm not a ghost chaser. Like ghost, spirit. There's differences and all this stuff. And
Mhm.
so I ask you people out there, so you think you want to do this, and hopefully Drew and I can guide you down a path of you know, some differences that him and I might have, which that's okay. We still get at the same stop sign. Some of the
Oh yeah.
methods, some of the tools, because there's so many new tools out. And I would start from the basics, if I'm going to be honest with everybody. The basics, it's not what you're seeing on TV. I think that
No, God, no.
it's so far in the rabbit hole now. But here's what you need. Okay. Equipment wise. And here's what you need, I think, first before you even get equipment. Okay. I think that you should go out, and there's this building in your town. It's called the library. Yes, you can get things here online. I would suggest Hans Holzer material. Read some of that first. There's other people who have books out, in this 20th century, 21st century, that are about ghost stories from England, all over the world, parts of America. And but Holzer, I think, is probably one of the more reliable and the best, because he wasn't just a paranormal investigator. He was an anthropologist and many a historian. He was several different things, several different degrees. His granddaughter has since taken up the mantle in some of his work. And he was one of the first really to document the fact that he was using psychics. He believed that there were people that had a talent, And he tells very earnestly early on that he had to go through people and some were fakes, and he found the ones that were real. And I think that you should educate yourself on, some of that. There's some breakdown if you want. There are other books to read that are going to tell you maybe a difference between a ghost and a spirit and a lost soul. You can bury yourself in so much reading and knowledge if this is what you want to do before you go out and start asking something in the dark to talk to you. Um, so I will say that if you're going to do this, don't do it alone. I do not suggest that. Whether you think you got it covered, it's just the way I feel. There's safety in numbers. That goes for, I guess, spiritual protection as well. And so we'll cover some equipment. So all you really need is a digital camera. Now, if you want to go use this, okay, I I got some pros and cons. Drew already knows that. I got pros and cons to using phones. Everybody's got a camera on their phone. If you want to use the camera on here, that's fine. The only thing that makes it suspicious, now everybody take a second now and listen to me very closely. The only thing that for me, and I think in the field that still makes these suspicious, there's way too many phone apps for you to be dropping something in there. And if I'm sitting at home and I'm watching your evidence cache or your video and I see some things that look a little wonky, that's the first thing I'm going to be suspicious of because I see everybody in your groups using a phone. Okay. You can get yourself a good digital camera for under $100. High megapixel is good because you want clarity if you take photos and you want to zoom in on something that it doesn't break down. And you can get yourself a good camera. Some come with an LED screen on the back. I'm looking for my case here so I can show some examples. If you got stuff with you, by all means, pop it up there and talk about it there, brother. Because I know he's got a system that I don't have because he does a lot of YouTube. And we'll cover that here in a second because he's the expert on that end of it as far as that goes. But you can get something just like this. Everybody take a look at it. It's got a screen on the back. Okay. I can move it. I can tilt it. It can pull out. Does an array of things. It's got a flash. Now, this particular model costs a little money, but you can get them used. Okay. This one, I can hook up live, like on Facebook, if I want to do live video. It takes video. It takes, stills. It's got a pop-up flash. You can get smaller versions of this, which are about the size of this phone. Okay. I think the second thing you do, which I think is one of the first and foremost pieces of equipment, is a flashlight. It's a ghost hunter's best friend. It could be this big. Got to make sure we know where my camera's at. It could be this big, or it could be, the size of your leg. As long as it's, working, we're good. And that's so that you're not tripping, you're not falling down flights of steps. If you do hear something, you can swing that around and, see if it's an animal, see if somebody's in your location, whatever it may be. The third thing is a notepad. Now, in conjunction with that flashlight, Drew, right? I think you should have it. I think people should use a notepad. Mine's packed in a different case, but you pull it out with that flashlight immediately. If something's happened, you light it up, put it in your mouth, whatever you got to do. Write down immediately the time, stamp it, the time, look at your watch, see what time it is. Write down what happened, and now you got a record. And that's good practice. That's very good practice. Or if you're using a digital and you don't want to use that method, you have this going at the same time. You hit record and you note the time. Say, I heard a noise coming from the back of the room. There's only two of us in the room. we're sitting on the floor. You know, whatever you want to number you want to use, and you turn it off, or you keep it going. You tag that incident.
Mm-hmm.
This would be the third piece of equipment, which is I like Sony's better. We got Crystal, got these, came along with some of her equipment. I am not a fan of these, but they still work. I suggest you get some Sony digital recorders, and those work really well with headphones. Um, Drew, you have cat balls, don't you?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Love the cat balls. Originally engineered, guys, as motion sensing cat toys. But if you hit the button on them and you activate the ball and you set it somewhere, any motion exactly will make it react like that right there. And if there's no one around it and the ball starts to move, then you know something has made a contact with that ball. And frankly, I've gone out with some other investigators to do um, different locations, one of which being the city of David over
Yeah.
in Benton Harbor, Michigan. And
Yeah. Yeah.
it used to be an amusement park years ago, and they had a zoo there, a small zoo, but still a zoo nonetheless. And we were in the basement of that, what they called the cat house, where they kept the lions and tigers and mountain lions, things like that. And the spirit that they have said forever inhabits that area around the cat house would not leave the cat balls alone. It would go from one cat ball on one end of the room to another cat ball on the other end of the room, back and forth constantly, constantly. And we knew that we were getting intelligent communication because it would make the cat ball react on command. If you're here, if you want to communicate with us, make this little ball light up, touch this little ball, and all of a sudden that ball would go off and start blinking. So, try a very tried and true piece, and a very inexpensive piece to start with.
Yeah, he's right. He's right. For what? Pennies on the dollar, literally. You can get what, a
I,
pack of
I,
two?
I think I paid $2 or something, $3 for three of them
Yeah.
on Amazon.
So yeah, and folks, you can see him. You saw me light it up, and I smacked my hand, and it lit back up. There, yeah, it's an easy tool. It's a good tool. He's right. Something has to move this or make contact with it in order for it to go off. And I've seen some
Hmm.
videos of some people we've worked with where they've actually rolled off a table. Or as Drew said, at the House of David, they're just going off where the zoo was. Interesting thing about that zoo, Marlon Perkins was friends with the House of David people, and he's the one that was getting a lot of their animals from the Chicago Zoo, according to Deb Boyer
Ah,
Smith. So he's the guy that
I
helped
like
them get
Deb.
their zoo together. Yeah. And we used to watch him on Mutual of Omaha on Sundays. So we know who that is.
Oh yeah, definitely.
All of us old
Mutual of
timers.
Omaha's Wild Kingdom.
You bet. And the Timex takes a licking and keeps on ticking. That's me.
Hmm.
So the next piece of equipment. Now, this is built by our buddy Mike Schwanke. They build these. It's basically just a simplified REM pod. And a REM pod is an electromagnetic device that reacts to anything that's close to it, very close to it. We'll give you an example. So if you get close to it, it's going to go off and you can hear it. So it'll go off. Anything that's close to it, that'll set it off. God, this camera's a nightmare. So if um, I find these to be pretty reliable. It's on pretty much the same. Well, the cat balls have to move, but it's about the type of device. Okay.
Hmm.
You can get these very cheap. I'm sure Mike Schwanke would be happy to sell those to you. I'll have to get his information and put it up here. I don't have it right at hand, but you can get these online rather inexpensively. And what I'm outlining here is not having to spend a bundle, folks, for you to start going out. And then we're gonna cover some of the rules and the do's and don'ts here shortly. Another good piece of equipment is an EMF meter. There are several
Mm-hmm.
versions of this. Now, depending on how much money you have to spend, or you need to use these correctly, and they're sensitive pieces of equipment, which means that you really need to be careful as how to you're using these. Okay, and this one is pretty accurate. You push the power button, and on here you'll see that there's numbers. I can't see my own stupid thing. So there's numbers. So if I get too close to the computer, which isn't really giving off a reading, oh, there it's blinking. You guys can't see it. And it gave a reading. Um, and it's a good idea to do a base in the house when you do this. So go to all the outlets, all the ceiling fans, all the light bulb fixtures, and you'll know where you have a little bit of power and a little bit of EMF leakage, electromagnetic field. Now, if you're in a house that has no power and you're asking questions and it starts to go off, I'm not telling you it's a ghost, but that's odd. Okay. So that
Yeah,
piece of
very
equipment.
much so. You have
Um,
to understand that everything, um, any kind of a living, uh, breathing entity, a human being, a dog, a cat, whatever, has its own small electric field. We all know the brain runs by electrical current and stuff like that. The heart, runs by electrical current. And if you get too close to an electromagnetic field detector, an EMF detector, you're going to set it off. If you get it too close to any kind of an electrical device, whether it's powered on or off, it's constantly has a current running through it. Though it's a small current, it's still a current. You'll set it off. But if you've got this thing sitting in a table in the middle of a room where nothing is around it, and it starts to go off, once again, that's one of them kind of situations.
right. And with this one, we won't set it off, but tri-field meters, I used to have one of those. You can put it on, I forget the setting, what it exactly is, but it will read our natural field around our body, and you'll see the dummy needle start to move. With this one, it's rather difficult, but I get it. Like if I were to rub it, I messed around one time and I got a static buildup because I was rubbing it on my sweater, and so that'll set it off. But he's right. We've had it on a table at a winery, and we had no power in that area. We turned it off on purpose, and we had it kind of reacting to questions. So that's your basic kit, just a basic kit, right? If you want to have, a ghost box, you can get SB7s, 11. They're out there. We'll talk about that here towards the end of the program. I've got a simplified version. You don't have to have this, but I find it very invaluable to what I do. I use it more than I used to, only because it seems to be a good tool. And that's all these devices are, everybody, is tools. And if you have
Mm-hmm.
to use them properly, you cannot jump to conclusions when you're using these things. That's something you've really got to be careful of. None of these were designed to go and detect ghosts, but to do something else. But they seem to work in the field that we're working in. We're kind of marrying this stuff to what it is we're trying to catch. Um, so there's a basic kit. You might want to get a case. You saw me kind of lift this up for a second. You can get these at any hobo freight. I know you got a hobo freight in your town, wherever it may be. You can get these $30, $40. The nice thing is the foam is in there. You can shape them to all your pieces of equipment. You can get an
Mm-hmm.
array of sizes. And when you turn the dial on this specific case, it becomes watertight, which means that I don't know why we'd be ghost hunting out by a river or a giant lake. Hey, it could happen. This thing might fall into the water until we retrieve it. It
Yep.
floats. It's waterproof. So even if it's raining outside, your equipment's not going to get wet. I really like that aspect of it, because before we were buying those big silver cases, we've gone. Those are dinosaur cases now. Pelican cases. These cases seem to work really well. But that's the equipment side. There's more to investigating the paranormal. And again, I want to remind everybody here at the half-hour mark of the sponsor of this program. I would be remiss if I don't, bring them up.
That's not be remiss.
Castle. Don't be remiss. Munson either. You don't want to be out in the middle somewhere and get Munsoned.
No, God, no.
Henderson Castle, hendersoncastle.com. Okay. Go there, check it out, plan your next wedding event, your next stay here in Kalamazoo. And it's just a great place. We also have haunted dinners there. Yours truly will take you through those once a month. And been working that place, since early 2000, 2007, 6, 7. And then, so here we are now in 2024. Even through COVID, I was in there. And that's a whole other story. But Gun Barrel Coffee in Batavia, Illinois. Great coffee. Give some a try. I'm actually drinking a little bit of it. I saved just tiny amounts of it. I got to order some more. I got some in here in my restricted, Ghostbuster coffee deal. I got a bigger coffee mug, but it's way too big for coffee. And that reminds me, March 22nd, again, don't be remiss, because what's happening March 22nd, Drew?
The premiere of Ghostbusters Frozen Empire.
Yep, be there, be square, man. We're going to be there. I'm going to talk to Celebration Saturday and see what's up. See if we can get in there. And
are we going to go back to Portage, where we were at for the premiere of Afterlife?
I'll find out. If that same celebration is having it, I guess that's where we'll be. So see if they want the cars and us crazy yahoos in there, and we'll see what goes on. I know they got new management from last time, so that's why nobody's reached out to me yet. So I'm going to take that step and go talk to them, and the rest is history. But we're looking forward to it. So you want to be a paranormal investigator? That's what we're covering here tonight. So we're going to move on to the next part, which is, some do's and don'ts, I guess. I will tell you, see down there at the bottom, see how that's scrolling, says unrestrictedparanormal.com. If you go through there, I believe I still have a page. If not, I will tell you on YouTube where you can find this gentleman. He has since passed away. A very close paranormal friend of mine, Jason Sullivan. And he used to do a series called Paranormal 101. Now, you can still see him all over YouTube. Lynette has left them up there. And the bro is going to show you, false negatives and what to look out for. And even covers, the whole thing of people phonying things. And it's very good to watch. I was happy to meet him. We had kind of a bromance. We were good friends. I was very sad at his passing, but I emulate exactly what he was teaching, and I will talk about it tonight. And that is, there's some do's and don'ts to doing this. Some of the do's, we've already covered the flashlight. Go in groups of 2. If you got a team of 4 or more, hey, do your thing. You know how to split it up. You know what you're doing. Don't go into places without permission. I cannot stress that enough.
God, no, jeez. And also be careful of going into places with permission.
Yeah.
Because there's always those nutballs that will follow you around. They will try to harass you, or they will try to frighten you, and it's a potential danger.
Are you calling me
It's
a nutball?
not just foolishness, but it's a potential. No, no, you're no, God, please, you've gone beyond nutball, dude. I know what we do for fun.
No, he's
Um,
right. He's right. He's right. And then this is why you go in when you have permission. You go in first. Everything's lit up. Okay. Tour the place first before you turn off lights and just start jumping in. Now, I was at an investigation as a guest, and those people that not one light was turned on. Now they had been there before. I had not been there before. And it was every man for himself. And people were everywhere. And I just thought, huh, what's going on here? So Drew is right. There could be somebody in there. You don't know. Um, safety first, man. It's just like when you're doing EMT training. Make sure you assess the site and everything's safe first before you do anything. Okay. Um,
well, and
don't go.
it's not just in closed places, Dan. When we done that cemetery up in Paw Paw, Michigan. Um, when we contacted, which my team always contacts local, county, and state police to let them know we're going to be at a location, and we contact the sexton of the cemetery and the city council to let them know where we're going to be. And the only thing the police had to say about Paw Paw was the woods are so thick around the cemetery. That's where a lot of the homeless village is, in
Right.
those woods. And those people have been known to go after people in the cemetery. They have been seen walking around the graves at night when people have drove through to visit, or when law enforcement's driven through, and they just wanted us to be careful. Now, something my team does that a lot of teams don't do. If I go into a place like the huge cemetery in Niles, Michigan, 11,000 graves. I always have a trained, retired county sheriff that rides with me who is armed. He's in his Crown Vic at the back gate. And one of my investigators, who is a very highly trained marksman, is also armed because people have been robbed in that cemetery. They've been attacked by people in the cemetery. So you want to take your own safety and the safety of your group, make that paramount. But you know how to gauge a situation. Everybody out there that's an adult knows how to gauge their own feelings on a situation. So you want to be safe, but at the same time, don't take somebody out there that's going to draw and just start shooting the first cracking stick they hear. You want someone who is trained, someone who has a knowledge in security or law enforcement to to be your the one that watches your back.
Right. And as I said, reverting back to the inside stuff, just take a walk through. It's important. Cemetery. Get to go through it during the day so you have a good idea where some of the headstones are in the ground, where some of the dips are, the holes are. It's just good practice. We do a reconnaissance, so to speak, before we go out to any of the cemeteries. Um, and like you said, getting permission is pretty easy 9 times out of 10, honestly. These people don't have a problem with you being in there. They just ask that you be careful. If they do, the worst they're going to tell you is, we prefer you don't. There are many which are out and about, and I say this lightly. If it doesn't have posted hours and there's no fence and no gate, just be careful. Again,
Mm-hmm.
flashlights, go in numbers. just be careful because we do some creeping and that's fun too. And if we say we don't have fun doing what we do, we would be lying to you. And
Yeah, definitely.
but definitely try to get permission. And a lot of the private places you do or historic places, you usually probably have permission. It's good practice. You know, we had paperwork. We're gonna get back into using that again, where we used to have sheets, and this is for you starting out too. That the I guess you call them clients. They would sign it, you would sign it, meaning that if any of your people trip and bump their head, they're not liable. You are because your person doesn't know how to walk up a flight of stairs.
Yeah.
That kind of thing happens, and it just protects everybody involved. The other part that I would speak to um, is, you want knowledgeable people and eager people to go, but you have to have a mindset to do this type of work. You can't be running out of a place with your hair on fire if you saw something or heard something. Let's say you're there to help somebody, that is not going to bode well for you or your team when they think you're professionals coming in there doing what you're doing. And you really need to weed through people in order, to bring them on as a permanent member.
Hmm.
We had kind of I won't call it a training program, but it was, kind of a probation thing, like I think 30 or 90 days or something, where we would take them out on, I think, up to 3 investigations, see how they were doing. And that's only fair. There's no money being exchanged here. Nobody was getting a paycheck, but you
Yep.
still want to have the right people to come out for you to do the right kind of work. And assigning people to do certain jobs when you start a team too, if this is what you want to do outside of maybe just, you doing this yourself, which I don't. There's a lot of people out here, doing things by themselves now, and I still do not think it's a wise idea. Just go with a partner. If they're not investigating, just still go with somebody. I didn't mean to get off track, but uh, when you're putting together a team, you want like-minded people. When people volunteer and say they're going to do review or they're going to run a camera or they're going to do this and do that, then you hold them to that. There's got to
Hmm.
be some sort of work ethic that's involved in this. There also has to be, um, to be truthful and have some honor attached, because those of you who are starting groups, or even if you going out and doing your own investigation firm, your name's on that. So you definitely don't want to be a laughing stock. But I think the
Now,
next thing,
at the same
go ahead.
time, don't get us wrong. At the same time, I have encountered things. See, I actually classify myself and my group as para historians. We don't just go to a place that has a history of hauntings. We go to historic cemeteries, we go to historic structures, we go to historic courthouses, we go to historic
Right.
museums. You know, I have ran across things in at investigations that made me want to duck and cover, flip under a table, run out the door, the hair on the back of your neck stands up, your whole body tenses up. We've heard things, but at the same time, much like when you're trying to pet a strange dog, you don't let them know they're frightening you, because
That's good
if you
advice.
show them that you're scared, then I feel like you're more apt to be messed with.
Yep. That's good advice. That's very good advice. Confidence. Yep. You got to have I don't think it's 100% a must, but he's right. He's speaking some good words. So you'll find it as you get into this. Like I said, ask yourself, is this something you really want to do? There's a lot of people who came out with me who thought this is something for them. This is what they want to do. And come to find out, it really is not what they want to do, because it frightened the living hell out of them. And, I'm not saying it's, movie. It's that it's moved. That it's movie. That it's movie
Oh,
stuff. But
oh God.
I'll tell you an incident. I had a girl who said that she was a she's she was a medium and saw stuff. Now I test everybody. Okay, if you tell me this, I'm going to test you. We were in the Kalamazoo envelope building, and she wasn't a bad person, but I thought I'm going to do this during the night. She was with one of my investigators who, he was the skeptic doubting Thomas anyway. And I was in a stairwell very close to their proximity, and I let out a yowl that I think even the best Sasquatch people would have thought, the hair up their back was standing up. And he said
Oh
what
God.
proceeded to happen. I had to go outside and talk to her that she about climbed up the back of his shirt on the inside of his shirt and then proclaimed to him that she saw this dark figure and it was trying to come after her. Now, maybe I woke something up, but I highly doubted it. And I went out and talked with her, and I said, maybe you should go home because she drove herself there, and I'll be in touch with you. And then it turned into this. So then about 2 days later, she called me up and wanted to know what I thought. And I thought, well, I don't think you're right for the team. Maybe you need to work on, your gift. I don't want to hurt people's feelings, you know what I mean, or be mean. And I said, I'm the one that yelled, and it was kind of a test. And she goes, well, I know that you have a sensitivity. I think my boyfriend's cheating on him. Can you kind of maybe feel that out and see what you feel? See where that went? How weird it got in a matter of seconds. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, well, I don't do that. And I wish you nothing but the best. Never talked to her since. And I just thought, wow, and that was a long line. This is early on. That is a long line of weirdos. I'm just going to say it like it is that I
You
came
know,
across.
it's actually very funny that you bring up the testing people. Once again, I'm going to flash back to the Paw Paw Cemetery in Paw Paw, Michigan, and my buddy Mark, that I go out with to do our investigations, was not able to make it that night. Well, we had a young lady with us named Christy who um, was going out with our team regularly at that time, and my mother-in-law. Now, I'm going to paint a picture real quick of my mother-in-law, all 5 foot 2 inches of her, the biggest Ghost Adventures fan that's
Oh
ever
boy.
existed. Drove or flew all the way to Las Vegas just to go to the Haunted Museum. And she wanted to go to an investigation. So I told her, okay, Mom, I will take you to this cemetery with me. And we were on a hillside. Now, understand, this cemetery, before it was a cemetery, there's a huge hill at the very far eastern side of this cemetery. And there used to be a tower on that hill that was rumored you could see Lake Michigan from the top of that tower. And we had all the equipment set up, had the night vision cameras set up, and had all the lights going and everything. And we were looking up that hill. Well, from our location, just off center to the left, is a huge monument. And we kept seeing this shadow like it was peeking out from around that monument. And then it would move back real quick when we pointed at it or said, hey, or something like that. And my mother-in-law, being, 6 foot tall and bulletproof, she said, I am tired of whatever it is playing with us. I'm going to find out what it is. And you see her on the video on my YouTube channel, Living Histories Mysteries, under the playlist Our Investigations, Paw Paw Cemetery. You see her walk by the camera and go up the hill and slowly fade into the darkness. Less than 10 seconds later, She was moving about 45 mph down that hill. And please excuse my language. I'm going to quote her verbatim here. Nope, 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 bucket, 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 nope, 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 screw this, and went right past cameras, straight to the car, got in and locked the doors.
Hmm.
She said she
Wow.
got about 15 foot from that monument, whatever it was, from mid chest out, leaned out to her from the left side of that monument, and she said she felt every ounce of blood freeze in her body because it was darker than the shadows around it. And she said she didn't even stop to hear it made a noise. It moved out behind that monument, whatever it was. But I mean, understand these legs are only 3 foot long. And this woman shot past us like somebody was coming after her with a ball bat. And right past us, right to the car, crawled in, locked the doors, and left us out there to face the danger all by ourselves.
Of course, you're the brave
Of
ghost hunter.
course.
This,
Great
this
ghost
is,
hunter.
and so I ask everybody out there,
I've
so
never
you want to
taken
be,
her on another investigation. She's
yeah,
still
you want to
begging.
be a paranormal investigator. That's my question. So you got to be able to face that stuff, whether it is dangerous, you may deem it as dangerous by that reaction alone. That's another thing you have to get past is, the fight or flight response. And I've had it happen to me. I played an EVP that Drew has heard from a house here, Clarence Street in Kalamazoo. First that's ever given me pause for a second and looked the front door thinking, I need to go out and take a break. Um, Not quite sure what I was hearing. So that kind of stuff happens, and you should be cautious. I would say that's what gives the some of the ghosts or the spirits kind of a bad name, or even the shadow people. A lot of people get into this because they have a shadow person, incident in their life, and then when you really sit them down, and I have a couple of people, including someone you and I both know. I'm not going to mention his name. I've asked him, I said, well, did it ever hurt you? Did it ever, grab you, swing your bed around? No, it just would stand at the end of the bed and stare at me. Okay. That could be grandpa. That could be grandma. I think the shadow people get a bad rap because people immediately, um, I want to put it in a certain way. There's a lot of sensationalism that's injected into a lot of the ghost lore. Okay. And let's just say it the way it is. It's lore. We try to we try to find fact, we try to connect things. Um, and people inject a lot of things from religious fear to, I don't know, everything to the cosmic, dust in the galaxy. And somewhere in the middle of all that, we're probably getting it right or we're just getting it completely wrong. I don't know. But
Well, you have to take into consideration too that these big popular paranormal groups that you see on television, whatever, 9 times out of 10, 9.75 times out of 10. Oh, you have a spirit in your house. Oh, it keeps you awake at night. Oh, it's moved things. It must be a demon.
oh yeah, there's a lot of them that do that. Ghost Hunters is still one of the better examples. I knew them before I was aware of them before they hit sci-fi, before they had their show. They continued. There are people who don't like them. There's people who like, the whole douchebag thing, whatever it may be. The fact is, you do you. Everybody out there, you do you. I'll do me. I still think Ghost Hunters is the best example. It's still on. Jason and Grant still both do very good work. I know
Yes.
Jason is still out there doing his work. Grant's taking another reprieve. Um, but there's so many ridiculous shows. I mean, they've even gone to the point of, mountain monster hunters, UFO cowboys is the new one. If anything for
Oh,
entertainment,
I've not seen that one yet.
you got plenty to go watch, and it's so ridiculous. But let's get back to this. So with us being the troops, we make mistakes too. We're not saying that
Mm-hmm.
we know it all or do it all. Just because some people would consider me OG because I'm not the oldest guy who's been doing it longer. We know a person who's been doing it since '93. I also know Rusty Jones has been doing it since the '80s. We're friends
Yeah,
with
yeah.
Rusty of TMPA out of Jackson. So, a lot of the methods that we're talking about tonight for you guys to go out, if this is what you want to do, research research is valuable. Okay, very underrated. It's underestimated as to really what you should be doing. Drew, because he's into history, he knows that. But I'm going to tell all of you that right now. Okay, I'm going to give you the soapbox moment from the big dog
Bum, bum,
himself.
bum.
So, if you want to go into a place without information and investigate, you've done the safety tour of the place, house, site, whatever it may be. The people may have told you some small things about the place, or maybe it's a historic place in your town and you already know some facts, because you never know it all till you start digging into the research. Um, it's important that if you are really going to do its work and investigate, wait till you okay until you
Yeah.
investigate your site. You should know what was on the land before anything was ever built there. You
Mm-hmm.
might want to look at geography, them near geographies. You got quartz, you got water, you got slate, what's going on the ground, what was there before, who built what. And then you take it from, basically, as they say, from the ground up. You really should. And there's ways to do a lot of this. There's ways to cross reference. You'll learn as you go. I find that census records or early phone books, when they
Yes.
first started putting phones in some of these houses, especially in urban areas, um, you'll you'll understand where there was a house and there wasn't a house, because most houses got phones about the same time. And
Mm-hmm.
they have a good listing of the addresses. Um, I found out that the house I grew up in on the west side had been a halfway house is different in the 30s and 40s than what it is now. So a
Yeah.
halfway house back then would be a flop, which meant that people could go up there, they could rent rooms and stay at the place. They could rent it while they worked in town, or until they moved to another location. Um, and because we had two stove holes in our house, we had a kitchen in the basement. It all made sense once I found out. And how I found out was about 7 years ago, I wanted to investigate who owned the house when it was built, because it was haunted when I grew up in it. And I discovered that by cross referencing phone books. Then I pulled out a census, and the first census ever taken was the same year the house was built, had the family's name, how many people lived there. I mean, you're going to be surprised at how much information you can gather. And just because it might have one or two people who lived in it doesn't mean they're the people haunting it. But that will give you an idea about, maybe these are some of the names you can call out, you can use, maybe give you a reference point to start from. So if you want to go that deep into the stuff, cool. If you don't, that's cool too. If you have kind of a base history, like with the jail, you guys kind of talked to the historical society, which they gave you a lot of
Mm-hmm.
info, but it was kind of a based investigation off stuff that you already knew. You knew there had been a
Mm-hmm.
connection
Yep.
to a murder and a train and all this other stuff, and it still worked out in your favor. I mean, you guys still got great evidence,
Yeah.
from that jail.
Well, and another thing you have to look at too when you go to investigate a property, and I'm going to touch. Dan touched on it a little bit. If you run across information or you run across evidence, potential evidence, at a location that you're doing a private property or something like that, and okay, well, how long has your family lived here? Oh, well, we've been here for 2 generations. Okay. So, do you feel like this might be a grandparent or something? No, no, it doesn't feel like. Okay, so then you go to the library or you go to the city,
Right.
and you pull up the history of that property. Who might have lived in that house 4 generations ago, or what was on that property 7 or 8 or 9 generations ago? You know,
Correct.
there's a property not very far from here that I would really love to do, but the people don't want nothing to do with it. Um, what this town was founded in the 1830s, um, probably around 1840s, 1850s, when the first house was built on that property. The family cemetery was right out behind the house.
Right.
So, you know, there could be up to 15 or 20 bodies buried on that property. Well, I mean, we do know that there was a carriage house on that property at one time. People have, when they've been out there landscaping, they have found pieces of iron, carriage pieces sticking up out of the ground and stuff like that. So you definitely, you want to do your research on any property that you're going to do, and not just the research the current family, but research back to when that property became that property.
And I wanted to point out too that you're going to get a lot of no's. And I was telling our mutual friend, Tommy amongst the tombstone, he was getting a little frustrated, because he's knocking on doors, he's sending emails and that kind of thing. And I've been through it 100 plus times. And I had to tell him, I said, well, just slow your roll, man. You're going to get a lot of no's, and that's okay. Not everybody is into wanting to let you come in. There may be other groups that have come in and they work with those people. They trust them. That seemed to be the case on a couple of these things that he was asking me about. And I found that to be true for me too. And I don't let it discourage me, because
You can't.
if like you said, if you early on, how many graves are in that cemetery? Thousands. So if you were to number the amount of people that have lived or are living here, let's say just in the state of Michigan, both upper and lower peninsula, you have an unlimited amount of historical places that you can go. There's
Mm-hmm.
towns that have virtually disappeared. You can go out there and work the grounds. Maybe the buildings are gone, but I've worked too in this state, and we got EVPs, and you think you're in the middle of the woods. Why am I getting EVPs, which seems to be in the middle of nowhere? You know why? Because we know that the town had been there, and I think that spirit is drawn back to familiar places. They're hanging out there. I've heard. I used to get. I had a story one time. I want to slow myself down. I had a story one time from another friend who passed away, Rob Conover, who had been on Travel Channel and things of that nature. And Rob in Pekin, Illinois, said that one of his first investigations was this building across. He would sit in the lot and he would watch this area, because they were seeing shadow people and people see through that were walking like they were going up flights of steps and on floors. And this used to be a 3 or 4 story building that was there.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes sense to me that could go on. So it just reverts back to what we're saying, that just because something's not there, or if it was there, or generations, some things can be left over, and you're going to get a lot, and that's part of the game. If you want to be a paranormal investigator, you better have some tough skin, because not only are you going to get maybe that or the door slammed in your face, so to speak. And a lot of times you won't, because some people are into the ghost shows. It's more popular now, I think, in the last 10, 15 years than it ever was. And some people aren't. The other end of that, also alludes to the fact that, um, you know, you're going to get no's, but you're also got to deal with what we call the shit show, which is there are a
Yeah.
lot of people and individuals and groups who are just bad. They're shit people, and they try to become territorial about things they don't own, areas they don't run or own. They get really weird, and that's why we do. This is a good segue portion here, Drew. That's why we do this thing called Ghostorama. So, Ghostorama, what is it, you ask?
What
Let
is
me ask you.
Ghostorama, Dan?
Thank you for asking, Drew. I'm going to tell everybody. It is really to try to curb that. It's a meet and greet, paranormal meet and greet, to try to spread some unity. Come on out, bury your differences, just talk. talk to one another. We have entertainment attached. We got kind of a car show attached. There's vendors, there's food, and it's free to the public. The two that we're going to do in Michigan this year. I got news on that, which I'm going to break on this show tonight. So originally, so I know, right? Big announcement. So May 11th, everybody already knows we're going to be at the Bell Mansion, the famous Bell Mansion in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Looking forward to it. It's already starting to come together. I'm liking what I'm hearing, what I'm seeing. We've got some vendors already lined up and already paid for. Early special guests that now we know that sometimes he has some health problems, but as it stands right now, we're going to have Keith Age there from Children of the Grave and Sci-Fi. He's one of our special guests. My friend, Mr. Schneider, who I've known for years down there, he's going to be a speaker. Mr. Schwenke's going to talk a little bit about what he does and equipment. Drew and I will be there. We should be there because I'm going to figure out a way to get your butt there. And we'll talk about what we do. And it's to spread unity and also to advertise the Bell Mansion, which not only was a mansion, it was used as a funeral home and a morgue. Kind of a unique place. It's been on TV. It's been all over YouTube. Shane's been there probably a half dozen times. So the second one is June 15th. That's here in Michigan, folks. And that's going to be at a place formerly known as the Beacon Club, which is A La Ferme, which means the farm. And that's Green and Go. Keith is supposed to be there as well. Drew and I will be there. June 15th looks to be promising. Same setup. We'll have vendors. We'll have car show. The restaurant will be open. The bar will be open. We got a bar there. We can drink. So, and then both places.
So the otherworldly kind won't be the only spirits running around there.
Correct. That's correct. And the good news is both places after hours ghost hunt at both. I forgot to mention that. So looking forward to it because we got some great stuff out of the old Beacon Club. I believe Evelyn Ferris is haunting that place. And so I just talked last night with my brothers at Lodge, and it was my wife's idea. And I will tell everybody that after this one that we decide on a date in September, we're going to do a Ghostorama at the Matawan Lodge, and I will tell you date to be announced in September, probably the second or third week of September. That'll be the last Ghostorama we ever do. There's just too much work to put together. My heart is still in it, but there's a lot putting it together and trying to get people rounded up. And I think at this point, we'll go down to Hannah House. We'll do our meet and greet down there that I've been going to for years. And maybe we'll do a smaller event, but for you guys in September, that's going to be your time to come to the last, because we've done how many now? 1, 2, 3. That'll be 4. So yeah, we'll try to go out with a bang. We're talking about having a fire afterwards. We're going to have a location near there, which might be the Pawpaw Cemetery you've been talking about. Just might be. After I was ghost hunt, but we're talking about, bonfire afterwards. People can hang out and a good time had by all. So I will announce that date as soon as I confer with the brothers and we pick that. So 2 in Michigan this year and 1 at the Bell Mansion.
Now, since you're making announcements and you brought up the Ghostoramas in May and June, I don't know if you've seen my post that I made on my channel Sunday morning, but due to my increased vitality, my working out and getting myself healthier, I decided to make the dumbest move that a 55-year-old man could make and I applied for Survivor Season 47. They are supposed to start filming sometime between the beginning of May and the beginning of July. So I've not heard whether or not I have been accepted yet, but they did recently. Jeff Probst, that hosts the show, did recently make a post online that he wanted more people over the age of 50 to apply.
Interesting.
So
That would be
we will
interesting.
just we will just have to see what happens with that, because being an outdoorsman, being a living reenactor, being a former hunter, I've got a lot of experience living out away from. I mean, I've done month-long events in the middle of 112-acre woods with nothing modern around. So, and we've hunted, we've trapped, we've fed ourselves, we've cleaned ourselves, we've made our own fires without any modern tools. So I basically lived that 26 days of Survivor before. So I figured, why not do it?
Let's just hope they don't cross you up with Naked and Alone.
Yeah, I personally, and I'm glad you brought that up, Dan, because I personally have to get ready for work in the morning with the lights out, because I don't want to see this naked. I know nobody else does. I
So
mean,
you would
I'm
be
no
alone.
Richard Hatch, don't get me wrong. I would be alone. I would be naked and alone because my partner would leave me there
Oh no.
or just quit the game.
Oh no. So before we end the show, let's cover a couple of the don'ts. These are big ones for me, and you're doing one of them right now. So I was going to give you a big naughty last time we were in Cassopolis, and we were out there investigating. I was like, put that damn cigar out, because Crystal was taking photos and she didn't see you off to the left. She's like, I see a mist. There's a mist on my camera. And I'm like, Drew's over there smoking. So word to the people, which I know you don't. You've been out to other places and you have not. Okay. I want to give you the reference, the plus, when we were other investigations, he held back until it was time to sit around the fire. That's a big one for me, because you can get way too many false positives with the smoke drifting around and people are taking photos and film. And Drew and I have worked with some young people that we really care very much about. And
Yeah.
I've seen them jump to some conclusions on occasion, like, whoa, slow the roll. Everybody's in the excitement, and I'm just like, well, let's hang on a minute. So, that's a big one. Don't smoke when you're at investigations. Obviously, you can't inside houses and other things, but if you're out in the cemeteries, if you have to, do it way away from everybody else. The only
Yeah.
other reason for that too is if you're at a place and you get some odd smells, you want to be able to smell that and not the cigar or the cigarette smoke, because if you were to get cigarette and cigar smoke and nobody's smoking, then you're like, what the hell's going on? Because I've been at a
Yeah.
location where we had cigar smoke and none of us were smoking. There's only three of us out there. And you could say it could drift, but we were out in the middle of farmland, nowhere. There's no way it would have drifted that far miles away.
Mm-hmm.
There was another location I wanted to tell you about, Drew. This part, throw it in here for the show, is that we were at a spot where they supposedly burned a man alive, these Native Americans. And I went out there at night. I was out there with Jason Griffith, and we could smell what smelled like like wood, like a house burning. Didn't hear screaming, nothing like that. And we were pretty sure we were close to where this took place. I have no explanation for that to this day either, but that's one of the do's and don'ts. The other is, don't take a bunch of still photos on a July night and you're capturing a ton of bugs with your arms out or people's arms out, and send that to me and Drew and tell us that, look at all the ghosts. Those are obviously material floating in the air. The reason is because it used to be a 15-foot rule. I'd say it's probably a 25-foot rule, because the digital flashes have gotten better.
Yeah.
So anything within that 25 feet is going to light up like an orb. It could be, a hair from your lip. It could be a booger. I don't know. Uh, Anything that you catch after that, be very suspicious. And especially if it's an orb and you can pretty much tell in the shot, it's like 30 feet away and it might be casting a shadow. That's odd because, those orbs, explainable orbs should not be casting shadows.
Yeah.
You don't always have to have infrared cameras, but if you want those, go to Hobo Freight. You can get yourself, a 4-camera system. A friend of ours, Jesse, Joan of Arc, she just bought a system, and you don't need much to get those for like $400. I think that's affordable. I mean, to some people, not to me right now, but you can get them.
Yeah.
Or you can go on, Marketplace, and people are selling old equipment and some old stuff, and even some of the old school stuff still works good. I got a 4-camera system here that I reverted to use. That bigger system we have, I sent that back, and told Crystal and her brother, hey, you need to sell that stuff. It's way too much to set up by myself anymore.
Yeah.
But you guys can get infrared cameras. They make a FLIR, which will plug into your phone. It's real, not the app that comes on your phone that's fake. You can get a real one. Again, a friend that you and I both know, Mr. Penny, he has one of those, and we caught 2 extremely great.
Oh my God.
So they do work. We had a guy,
they do work.
Yeah, a guy peeking at us from around the corner of a staircase at the Van Buren Poorhouse Museum, and then another one where there's a window and there's no window there on the wall, and there's some dude walking back and forth in it. I think that's interdimensional because there was never a window there. It's a 150-year-old building. There was never a window on that wall. Never. No mirrors, no glass, nothing. I don't know what it was. But, and I think some of the other don'ts is, keep I'm going to do the level of voice you should have. So, like, we're going to do an EVP session. And if you have to talk, identify yourself, everybody say your name. We're getting ready to do a session. We're in the cemetery. I'm Dan. Drew would say, I'm Drew. Whoever else is there, you all say your name. That way, if you catch another voice that doesn't sound like those that you just heard, you've caught something.
We've actually been at locations before where we've said, like, hi, my name is Dan. Hello, my name is Drew. Hello, my name is Mike. And then, 2 or 3 minutes into a voice recording or something, you will hear Drew or Mike.
Yep.
And it sounds nothing like anyone who previously stated their name at the beginning of that voice recording. So they will connect to an individual. They will connect to an individual, and they will call you by name.
Yep. Especially if you've been there over and over. Castle, I ask him constantly, what's my name? And eventually you hear Danny. They won't say Dan anymore. They say Danny. They know my real name.
I've heard it at the castle, doing your EVPs right there in the dining room. I've heard it.
Yeah, I like that kind of stuff. So there's some fun to be had in this. There's some things to look forward. If you guys have any questions, I'm here to help and talk. I'll get you started the right way. Drew, contact Drew. Where can they find you, Drew?
You can find me on YouTube at Living Histories Mysteries, or you can actually find me on Facebook at Drew Ellsworth McCrae.
There you go.
Contact me on Messenger. Leave a message on one of my videos, and I'll be more than happy to respond.
Yeah, we're always happy to help. That we have no alternative other than to get you started right, make new friends. That's all I'm out to do. I'm not out to take anybody's site, any of this other stuff, the shit show, the people that, haters are going to hate.
Yep.
Drew and I both, we got a line of haters, and I don't know what to tell you about that. You're going to run across that too. Do not let it discourage you. Most of the people that are going to hate on you are jealous because they can't do what you're doing.
Exactly.
I truly believe that, because they couldn't do something I'm doing or get the things I'm getting. They just can't stand living with themselves over that. And that's their problem. That's not on me. But I want to thank you for joining us on this episode. Michelle Freed is
Definitely.
hard at work getting us some guests. So we're going to have an array of guests coming your way. And
Hopefully
as
we'll get
always,
Michelle Freed sometime soon. She's an
yeah,
amazing woman to talk to.
well, I'm trying to beat her with a stick to come on here. She I don't
Try
know.
hitting her harder.
She talks in front of a crowd. It's like there's no difference. It's just us. It's just us. There's no crowd. So we'll have to get her on. Maybe do some remote viewing while she's on the show.
Definitely, that would be great.
Because right after she was with us at Eden Springs, I ended up hearing her show. She was on Coast to Coast with George Norrie.
Oh, wow.
I was excited for her. I'm like, I know her. So she's good people. We'll see if we can get her to come over for one of these. She said she could make one of them. So hopefully we'll see her. But I want to thank our sponsor again, Henderson Castle, hendersoncastle.com. Also our network, which has been rolling down below there the whole time. That's www.unrestrictedparanormal.com. You'll find this program. You're going to find Drew's History's Living Mysteries. Man, I always my brain
Living Histories Mysteries.
Right. You'll find his show over there, as well as a couple others. Bump in the Night. They've had a couple of good guests on.
Oh yeah,
talks, and we love those guys. They're just a hoot.
They're great. I love them.
So we are going to continue. Drew and I are going to continue to go out and do our thing. I have some new projects that I'm slowly working on. As soon as we get the people to say yes, I'm going to need the help and the hands. So he's on the list, and hopefully it's somewhere near him very soon. I drove by you twice this week because my new lot job. I'm going down to Elkhart and Mishawaka, so I'm driving right by Cassopolis. In fact, I went through your town yesterday. Yesterday.
I was home.
Well, I didn't have time. I had to get back to the office. So next time I got time, I'll stop. But, we're going to try to bring you just some fun and some topics along the way and talk about what we know and don't know in this stuff. You would think the experiences between this guy and myself, we're kind of the older folks in the ring with some of the younger guys out here, and we know some things and we're still learning some things. So
definitely.
It's up to you. But we thank you for your friendship. Thank you for watching. And we will catch you next time here on Paranormal Notebook. I'm Dan.
I'm Drew.
And you can find me on Facebook. You can also find us at Southern Michigan Paranormals. All right, you guys, everybody have a great night, a great weekend, and it doesn't cost you a damn dime to be kind to one another, okay? Just be nice. Just be nice. That's all you got to do.
Yep.
You hear me? Just be nice to each other. Make it a better world.
Exactly.